Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Mary.
You know, there's not a person on this planet who hasn't faced tough times. But the good news is that tough times never last, but tough people do.
On this show, we're going to talk to some extraordinary people who have faced tough times, and they've come out better and stronger on the other end.
And they're going to share their stories, their struggles, and the lessons they've learnt.
Because no matter what you're going through, there's always a way forward.
This is Tough Times Never Last. Thank you for joining us. Greetings everybody, I'm Michael Kuzilny. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Thank you for joining us. We've been doing this show for many, many years. I've worked around the criminal justice system for over 30 years now, and the amount of people I've seen going through difficult times, and I think we're all suffering at the moment, so I'm very, very grateful for all the guests who come on. If you're going through an issue today, love and best wishes to you. I'm Michael, and this is the lovely Mary.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, George, for being on the show.
That's right, we've got George Basha, one of Australia's finest filmmakers, independent, award-winning. He's had some great movies, and I've written them down, George, before on my piece of paper here. George is an amazing man. He's a filmmaker, producer and actor. The Convict, Aggravated Assault, Hostile Forces, The Combination. It's been an amazing journey, George, and you started working with Heath Ledger on one of the movies.
That was my first taste into acting. I actually didn't want to be an actor, so originally I wanted to be a stuntman. And I met this great stuntman called Grant Page. He's the one who did all the Mad Max films. So Mad Max 1, he did all the stunts. And he talked me out of it. He said, there's not enough action films in this country and you're not going to get much work.
What did your mum and dad say? You know, I mean, sort of European, Lebanese background, George?
Lebanese background.
Yeah, your dad would have said, what filmmaking are you stupid?
He laughed at me. Honestly, when I said to him I wanted to be an actor, he looked at me and he started laughing. And he said, no, you're going to do a trade.
Yeah.
He goes, once you do a trade, you can do what the hell you want after that, but you're doing a trade first. And I did. So
that's right, you became a panel beater.
Panel beater.
Did you enjoy that?
Not really, but I did it to please my father. So once I'd finished panel beating, I enrolled into an acting class. I was in my mid-20s, I think, at the time.
Isn't that amazing? And folks, Mary and I watched The Convict last night. What an amazing movie. You should check out his movies, the prison scenes. And George is a very skilled fighter. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with him, you know, so we better be nice to him, Mary. Did you see those fight scenes?
I watched it last night. It was so intriguing, the characters that you've picked for your script.
I base it on my life. I think every film I make, there's something in it that I've experienced in my life. And Convict was one of them. I grew up in Western Sydney, pretty rough area. So a lot of friends that I went to school with have done time for various things. And sometimes I kind of look at them, and if I like that kind of character, I write that into the script. Change the name, but yeah, and I kind of work off that. And that gives me the characters.
Brings such authenticity to your movies, George, you know, because you've been there, done that, and very, very authentic. And well, you could have gone either way, couldn't you? You could have gone down a life of crime, but you decided to become an actor, filmmaker, producer. Yes,
I was hanging around some pretty bad people when I was younger. So
yeah.
I had a friend of mine who got into a big fight and nearly died. He got burnt. And that was the change I needed. I just, seen him in hospital. I thought, what am I doing? You know, I remember going home that night because I was supposed to be with him. And that I had to stay back for work. So I was the big man upstairs telling me not to be there. And then he copped the building and they lit him up and he survived, but
That's amazing, viewers, isn't it? And this is a real story of inspiration, consistency, and discipline. Because I think Blackrock, that's one of the first movies that George acted in. Great movie, got global recognition. And after that, there was a downturn in auditions. But rather than giving up, you just kept on pushing the envelope, didn't you?
Well, I got the taste. You get the bug. When I did Blackrock, I got to work with great actors, Heath was one of them, as everybody knows. There was also Rebecca Smart, David Field, to name a few. But I became good friends with Heath at the time. Heath, another actor called Brendan Donahue, who's still in the business now. And they were getting auditions all the time.
So the acting, and all of a sudden you thought, stuff it, I love this industry so much, I'm going to make my own movies.
I was pushed to make my own movies. I couldn't get an audition after Blackrock, and my agent at the time, God rest his soul, said to me that because I was ethnic looking, that the industry didn't write any roles for a lot of ethnic actors, and that was the truth of it all. And at the time, I was under contract. I didn't want to be represented anymore. I kind of wanted to make my own way, so I got out of the contract. And I was fuming. I'm one of those people that if I'm told I can't have something or do something, I'm going to prove everybody wrong and do it. It's how I've always been. Anyone that knows me knows I'm that. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I remember turning around to my agent and said to her, remember my name. So the industry's going to know about me.
What I like about you, George, very authentic, no ego, That's what I said yesterday, isn't it? I thought, what? I said, what decent man, so
What
authentic.
A nice guy, so authentic.
I said, how do you know this man? I said, he's so real, which is amazing.
And I know George through Facebook.
Yeah. And you went to one of these movies?
I did. I went to George's Hostile Forces, your premiere.
Yeah, my last one.
What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I was really surprised, actually. What a great Australian film.
And viewers, they are all gripping and chilling movies. Check them all out, George Basha, and just amazing stuff. Probably hasn't been, I think the Australian film industry really hasn't given enough credit to George Basha. His films have got global appeal, and the fighting skills, mate. I thought you got a stunt person, but you actually are a good street fighter, George.
I trained when I was young. I used to train a lot. I did kung fu, did some boxing. Yeah. So I grew up watching stuff like Stallone, Jackie Chan. The good thing about Stallone, he's an ugly-looking bloke, so I could relate to him. And he was ethnic. He was an Italian, so I was able to relate to him. So
George, you're very handsome. What about the scene when you walk out in the in that nice army suit, mate? I thought, who's this handsome man? And you got a lovely lady there.
I'm going to tell you a story about why I did that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because every time in Australian cinema, we always see the good guy to be a white bloke.
Yes.
And I think Australia's very multicultural, right? And we don't show it enough on our screens. So I chose the highest ranking army uniform, which is SAS soldier, to put myself in it, to say to every other ethnic in this country that they can be an Australian that's not white.
Follow your dreams, especially the last few years. Everyone's going through something. People are going through financial problems. So many relationships have split up. People have lost loved ones, People are just getting bored of their jobs. And follow your dreams. You don't have to ask for permission, Just spend some more time in reflection, and anything's possible. Here's a perfect example of a man who's been stay in your corner. This is not for you. And now his films have exploded globally. It's an amazing story, isn't it, of determination, because we tend to live in our comfort zone, Mary, don't we?
We do, and I have a couple questions, if it's okay, George, with you. I'd like to go back in time and just some of the challenges that you faced from the beginning. How were you able to make two films privately funded?
Well, you face a lot of challenges. You face people telling you you're not going to do it. It's the first thing, people that are close to you. And sometimes if you let that get to you, you're going to believe it. I didn't let it get to me. Finding money independently is hard. People will promise you. Like Combination, the first film I made in 2009 took me 8 years to find the money. Anyone else were afraid to tell in after 2 years. 8 years and we just kept knocking down doors until we finally found the money. You know, and to be able to sell the idea of making a film about Western Sydney, which was never done at the time, was another challenge, you know, because, you know, once you find an investor, it's about how are we going to get the investors' money back, how are they going to make their money back. So you're making them believe in the project, especially in a world that they don't know about, right? So you're going to investors that know about this world.
I remember one time George's movie was the most screened around Australia. Which movie was that, George?
Combination.
The Combination. There was blues in cinemas and all sorts of stuff.
But why did they pull it off the screens?
So 2009, film opens up. I get a call with the #1 film in Australia. So it was over the weekend. We were compared to Batman Begins on their opening. Our ticket sales were going through the roof. A few hours later, I get a call telling us it's going to be pulled from the cinema. So you can imagine 8 years of hard work. You get the call that you want, that the movie's #1, and then you get the call you don't want to get, that the movie is getting pulled all around Australia from the Greater Union cinemas. Now they said that there was violence and there was also racial tensions, that the film's creating racial tension. So I dug deeper, and this is the truth of what had happened. Right? I spoke to a police officer that attended the scene at Parramatta Cinemas at the time. There was a bloke sitting at the front in a packed cinema smoking. They told him to turn it off. He wouldn't. Argument got heated. Police were called. And then, you know, they made this big story about all this other stuff. Now, I said to them at the time, you know, this never happened in Australia. I don't think this has happened in Australian history, right? A film being pulled from the cinema. Now, in my opinion, if you're Hoyts, Greater Union, or whoever you might be, it's your job to protect the patrons and your workers, all right? If it was, and I said to them at the time, if it was to my distribution company when they'd pulled it, I said, if this was a Nicole Kidman or Hugh Jackman film, would they have pulled this film?
Absolutely.
They didn't say a word, right? So the answer was there for me to see.
And then they pulled the film, Mary, and then they said, all right, we'll put it back on. And George had to go to all the cinemas and what did you have to do?
What were the terms and conditions?
You had to talk to the crowd.
Please, I'd like to know.
Behave yourself, everybody. They would clap when they...
I had to, they did, but it was...
A great man came to speak to them.
Yeah, I had to tell them, I had to talk before every session and tell them, look...
It's like God coming to come and talk to you.
I'm the filmmaker and please don't cause any trouble. So imagine telling that to people about to watch the film. And
they would have loved it.
Did you do it? Did you actually walk around?
Yes, I had to. That was part of the deal. I had to do it.
Did I come autographs?
No, I just wanted to get out there really quick. I got sick of it after the first couple of days. And then you're rocking up there and there's security at the door, police officers at the door. So they killed the movie because, you know, people now were scared because it was all over the news. Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10, it was everywhere. So I had to go on to Sunrise and explain what was going on. And I bumped into a lot of people that wouldn't go because they wouldn't take their kids because they were scared. They said, you know, the media had made this big fuss about it.
Isn't it amazing, viewers, the fuss and, you know, the knockbacks? A lot of people just retreat and go back into their comfort zone. But here's a man who's had a few tough knocks and he just keeps on going, it just keeps on going. I heard a saying one time, be so good so you can turn your signature into an autograph, you know. And that's what you've done, you know. You've just kept on going, resilience, you know. And I suppose a lot of that comes from growing up in the streets of Western Sydney, yeah?
There's that, and there's also the fact that we're 7 kids. And we're very sporty, competitive. So I played sport. Me and my brothers played high-level sports, and we're always competitive. Yeah. And I think that also helps. Being competitive helps because you're in a competitive market, right? Yeah. So you know, I remember when I used to play soccer or cricket, and I hated losing. Yeah. And it's the same thing with making films. You know, you want to be the best you can be, and you're not happy. Like, you know, when I made my first film, I wasn't happy. Now I want to do something better, you know? And it's the same, and I think that came from the streets of Sydney, but also my family, my brothers. And
I can imagine his parents, viewers, being from European background, would have said, what are you doing that for, that? And then when they finally saw his movie in the cinemas, they would have been so, and still are, proud. My mum and dad are Ukrainian background, you know, and whatever I did, my mum go, what are you doing that for? You should work in a bank, you know. What are you doing joining the police force? What do you want to become a lawyer? You stupid, you know. But then when finally you become sort of in your own little world successful, then, oh yes, we're very good. So your parents would have given you...
They are, but it's embarrassing. Like there are times my parents would bring me a DVD and it's for their doctor. They want me to sign it. So that everywhere they go, they don't introduce me as George. It's that's my actor son. And it's actually embarrassing. So stop saying that. You know, but they are proud. I know they're proud, but it's embarrassing. I get embarrassed. I still do get embarrassed. I love it. I don't do it for the money or the fame. It's never about that. Like sometimes, you know, in Australia, as everyone knows, you know, there's not huge money.
No.
So people always say to me, "Why do you make films?" I love telling stories.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if you're in the industry and you're after fame and fortune, you're in the wrong industry. You're gonna have to love it, and that comes after if you deserve it. If that makes sense. You know, but it's all about the love. You know, to me, that's what it's about. Like, you know, people, I've been offered roles where I've turned down, and I've taken roles where I haven't been paid to do.
4 movies, and
movies.
another one to come. What are they? What are the movies?
Well, Combination,
Yes. What year?
2009. Then 2014, I made Convict.
Yes.
2018, The Combination Redemption, which is a sequel to The Combination.
Yes.
2022, Hostile Forces. And hopefully next year, I've got a new film called Caught Up. So I'm directing that. You know, I've also got to give a shout out to one guy, David Field,
Yes.
who's a fantastic Aussie actor, been in, you know, Two Hands, Chopper, he's done it all. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here.
What's the elevator pitch, George, if somebody met you in an elevator? What are your movies about, in a nutshell? The elevator pitch.
Choices and family and love.
Choices.
Family and love.
Family
Yeah.
and love. And viewers, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Love, choices, kindness. I wrote a book many years ago called Split Second, and the reason was that, sort of having worked in the criminal justice system, how many good people can make choices and end up behind bars for many, many years, you know? It's not just criminals who end up behind bars, but it's amazing. You hear all the stories, don't you, Mary, about
I've had
good people
quite a few stories.
who make mistakes, yeah?
One split second and it changes their life.
It's choices. Everything you do is about choices. I think, you know, especially I grew up with a lot of kids. I've said before, they've done time and they're good kids. But if you make a choice.
Yes.
And that choice can impact not only you, your family.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people that they make a choice and it's a bad choice and they do time. You know, people don't understand what their family goes through, what the mother and father goes through. Yeah. And I know, I've seen it firsthand.
Yes. George Basha, you've got a very good heart, very good heart. You know, you must have beautiful parents.
I have.
You've given a lot of people a hand up in the acting industry. You know, some of your actors have
Yes.
become international superstars.
That's one of the things I love, I think, because I didn't get that. So I had to go the hard way. No one ever gave me a leg up, you know, other than, you know, like David Field, who believed in me. But I'm in a position now where I can help kids. Yeah. So if I can help a kid off the streets and they can chase their dream, because every kid has a dream.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Every kid has something they like or they love. And if you can send them on that right path.
That's amazing.
So, George, what would you say to the young kids out there that want to get into the industry and they're struggling and finding it tough?
This is a hard industry. It's not easy. But you've got to believe in yourself, and you got to not listen to everybody else, because no one's going to tell you you're going to make it. They're always going to be negative. Doesn't matter, even if it's not film, if it's sports or whatever. They're always going to have that. They're going to put that doubt in you. The minute you let them put doubt in you, you're not going to make it. There's two sorts of people, right? There's people that I'll say to you, I call them the I'm gunners. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and they do nothing. Then there's the ones that says, I'll do it, and they do it.
So true, isn't it? So true, viewers, isn't it? There's the gunners. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, la la, and then you ring them up a few weeks later. No, I haven't done that yet, you know. I heard a saying one time, people get rewarded in public what they do in private, and this man's done a lot of hard work on himself, but he would have gone through a lot of challenges, like all of us growing up, but then to make a movie.
If you love something, you'll do it, you know.
Yeah.
Look, I love it. I'm telling you, I've taken jobs on where I haven't been paid. I've done it for the love of it. Yes. I've loved the character and I've done it. Yeah. And I've knocked back jobs that are paid because I look at it and I go, I don't want to do this.
George, has there ever been a time when when you're doing your movies and everything and someone says, hey, George, I smashed my car, can you fix it up? As the old panel beater.
Blackrock, it happened in Blackrock. I remember a really good friend of mine was a producer, he's retired now, Dave Elphick. He had damaged the car, found out I was a panel beater. He asked me if I could repair it. And I said, no, I can't repair it, because I had this thing in my head that if I was going to make it, I'm doing it on my own.
Yes.
I wasn't going to do favours for anyone. I wanted to know that I was good enough to make it on my own. So looking back at it, I should have repaired his car, but I just had this thing, like I said to you before, when I've got this thing in my head and that's the way I'm going, I stay on course. And now I'm going to make it, I'm going to do it my way. And if I don't make it, then so be it. I know I had a crack, I didn't make it. So yeah.
George, what's the worst thing that ever happened on set, and what's the most exciting thing that's ever happened on set?
The worst thing that's happened on set, last time I made hypothermia, I blacked out.
Did you?
Yeah, it was my fault. We were shooting a scene, an action scene, and it was winter in Manly, and I had to come out from under the water, like a Rambo type of scene, and it was freezing. And I knew it was freezing, but I also knew that the budget, we had to shoot that day, and otherwise we had to come back. And me being as stubborn, and you could feel it, because when I was spitting out my dialogue, I was blabbing a lot. So my body was starting to shut down. The next thing I know, I'd walked out and one of the actors caught me as I fell, and I just remember waking up and they were just Heath. They had the blanket on me and they were trying to bring me back, and it's probably the worst thing. The greatest thing, honestly, memories. Making films, every movie I've ever made, I've got memories, and I've worked with actors that have passed since, like Tony Ryan. He was in all my films. He passed away from cancer. So sharing the screen of him, Richard Green, another one that passed away. Brian Ellison from Convict. Who was a great stunt coordinator and actor, mentor, passed away. So, those memories that you share, because you miss them, but you've had the honour of sharing the screen with them.
Have you ever been beaten up on set with the fight scenes?
Beaten up.
Has anyone ever really just thought, I'm going to hit this guy today?
Well, yes. Okay. No, I didn't get beaten up. So what happened? Brian Ellison, God rest his soul. We did this scene in Convict in the tool shed when the guards attacked me. Yeah. And Brian is a hard man. So Brian is a stunt coordinator who worked on Matrix and Mad Max. But he's aged, and he kept coming at me really hard. And I kept saying to him, Brian, take it easy, because if you keep coming at me hard, I'm going to have to come back at you hard.
Did he belt you with a baton?
Oh, mate, when they threw me on that table, that was a metal table, and I remember my bones shook. Another time was combination, I copped the black eye. Because David Field wanted me to wear, I was boxing a guy called Tony Weeby, who was number 2 in the world at one stage. So a professional boxer in the scene. And David Field wanted me to wear a protector headgear. And I said, I'm the lead, I'm not wearing a headgear. I said, no way I'm wearing a headgear. So I didn't wear a headgear. And what happens? Tony catches me with this hook really well, and my eye, I couldn't see out of it, just like that. And this was the 3rd day of shooting. So films aren't shot in order. So all of a sudden, now I've got this big black eye, and it's going to be a problem for continuity. And I was dazed, he hit me that well, all I can hear was David effing this and effing that. Get his eye down. I told him to wear a headgear. And the nurses there working, trying to get my eye down. So through the whole film, I had to have makeup. I had a black eye through the whole production. They hit it well, makeup hit it well. But yeah, it's part of doing action films. You're going to get hit.
And are you difficult to work with?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think I'm pretty. I think because I'm especially.
You'd be a perfectionist, though.
Yeah, but I understand an actor. So when I'm directing, I know I'm an actor first. So I know how actors want to be treated. So if I'll treat an actor the way I want to be treated. So, and you've got to be patient, because sometimes especially doing big scenes like action scenes, for example, you got to be careful, because you can really get hurt, because you're using guns, and they're real guns, they're not toys. In Hostile Forces, I got shot in the hand.
Well, we saw that with Alec Baldwin, didn't we?
It's dangerous. It's like, you're not supposed to, first rule in film is with guns, you never point it at the actor and fire.
No.
It's always, the camera does that for you.
George, you're a great inspiration to many and to your kids and to viewers around the world. What advice would you give of young people not thinking good enough to follow their dreams?
I just think you've got to find out what you love, what you're really passionate about. That's the first thing. You need to what you're really passionate about, because you're going to put a lot of time and effort to achieve it, and chase it. And really, really chase it. Not just, chase it. If a door closes, kick it down. The secret to finding success is break the rules. And what I mean by break the rules is don't commit a crime. I'm talking about, for example, auditions. People do auditions, right? I guarantee you, I can tell you from experience, 90% of auditions, they do exactly the same thing. They'll scratch at the same time, whatever the script says, right? The other 10% will break the rule. They'll do something completely different. And that is what you got to do in everything you want to do. You got to be different to everybody else. And you got to be willing to break the rules, go around things to get what you need to get. I do it all the time.
Congratulations on your spectacular success and for talking to us. What can we expect from the next movie? What are you working on now?
I'm working on a film called Caught Up. Going back to the streets of Western Sydney. I play a cop. That's had a friend pass away, but he comes back home and his best friend's a gangster, and their worlds come colliding from their past.
Wow, a bit like American Gangster.
Yeah, it's got a bit of that. It's got a lot of family in it. It delves into love as well. So it's all the same ingredients I use in most of my films. And I think it's one of the best scripts I've written. It's now
Congratulations. George, are you happy?
I'm always happy.
I love you, bro. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you, George.
And viewers, thank you very much. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Whatever you're going through, remember it's all impermanent. Have a great day. All the best. See you next week.